My name is Peter Sramek. I'm chair of the photography program at OCAD University in Toronto. When I finished high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was interested in sciences, and I ended up going to MIT in Boston, thinking I might do something like geophysics, and got sidetracked into photography, and did my undergraduate degree was within the School of Architecture, but on the art side. Piercing Time is a project I've been working on for about 4 years, and it comes from a real interest in historical places, places that are significant sort of culturally. For me, that's primarily ended up being in Europe, with an interest in sort of art history and architectural history, and then also being of European descent. I've spent time in Europe, and one of the things I became very interested in is how cities change over time, and yet at the same time, those historic cities are very, very sort of rich with that feeling of history. And when you're walking through a place like Florence or Prague or Paris, you feel that age. And then in Paris in particular, because photography began in France, there's a history of 19th century photography and photographs of the city. So I was very interested in other photographers who had in fact been photographing, documenting the city and its changes. And Piercing Time is about the way in which Paris was changed in the mid-19th century through massive demolitions and building of new streets and new houses and so on. And there was a photographer named Charles Marville who was commissioned to make photographs before they made the changes. So he's photographed these places that were there, for hundreds of years, and then suddenly in 1865, in the 3-year, 4-year period, were all demolished. And he photographed before and he photographed after. And one of the things I've been interested in is how photography can document these kinds of changes. So I've gone back through the archives, looked at those photographs in the museum, and then gone and made photographs of these places. This is a very sort of research-based project because I did go into the museum archives and go through the photography collection. I went through 900 photographs by Charles Marville, looking at the original prints that were put there in the museum in the 1870s, which was amazing, and then selecting which ones I would want to work with. And I had to go around the city with a map and figure out where these were taken. And it was a 3-4 year process of making those photographs. And part of what I was doing too is that I was then meeting people on the street and talking to them to try and get at a more contemporary sense of how the city has been changing and how people feel about the history of the city. More directly with this project, I do have, at this point, I have 3 students and graduates who are working as research assistants on the project. So I've been getting grant funding to do the project and being able to hire them. So they're getting the experience of working on this. They're now helping me build the mobile app. And they've been doing a lot of the digital processing for me as we sort of pull the images together. That's been really great. I mean, and in fact, I probably couldn't do this project if I wasn't here at OCAD. In becoming digital, in some ways it's much easier to make photographs. It's quite accessible. Everyone has a camera, even if it's just on their phone. And most people these days have access to a computer, so they can begin to work with those images. And I think a good place to start is to do that and get a sense of why do you want to make photographs and what's interesting about it, and understanding how that technology can work. That digital revolution has really expanded in some ways what photographers would do, but then it's also brought all these people who have different interests and put them into one basket. So suddenly you can do everything. And we have students who are doing for their graduating work, they're working with video, or they're doing installations and so on. And I think that's very, very exciting.